New video has emerged in the search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. Ring camera video obtained by Fox News Digital shows a car driving down the street around 2:30 a.m. the night Nancy was taken from her home in Arizona.
There are two timestamps at the center of this investigation. The first, 1:47 in the morning. The second, 2:28 in the morning. Between those two numbers, a span of 21 minutes, the working theory of what happened to Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona, was formed. What began on February 1st, 2026 has now stretched across a full month. The investigation into the disappearance of an 84-year-old woman from her private residence in the Catalina foothills has grown into one of the largest missing person inquiries in recent Arizona history. As of March 1st, 2026, Nancy Guthrie has not been found. No suspect has been charged. No confirmed location has been identified. What has been confirmed, however, is a body of forensic and digital evidence that investigators are now working to untangle at a critical stage of this case. Nancy Guthrie was last seen on the evening of January 31st, 2026, after having dinner with family. She returned to her home, a residence she had occupied since approximately 1985, in the Catalina foothills neighborhood of Tucson. The following morning, she did not appear for a scheduled church attendance. When concerned family members attempted to reach her and received no response, she was reported missing. When investigators arrived, they observed that her personal belongings, her phone, her wallet, her vehicle, remained inside or at the property. Based on the totality of those conditions, the Pima County Sheriff's Department determined from the outset that Nancy Guthrie did not leave voluntarily. The residence was immediately designated a crime scene. Authorities publicly stated their belief that she had been taken against her will. The first digital evidence to anchor the investigation came from a doorbell camera system at the property. At 1:47 in the morning on February 1st, that camera was disconnected. Whatever footage it may have captured immediately prior to or during that disconnection has been a significant focus of investigative attention. Approximately 41 minutes later, at 2:28 in the morning, a pacemaker application linked to Nancy Guthrie's iPhone ceased syncing. That device, as the pacemaker monitoring app, requires the medical device to be within proximity of the phone to maintain its connection. The loss of that signal at 2:28 is treated by investigators as the most precise available indicator of when Nancy Guthrie was moved from or removed from the immediate vicinity of her home. Within approximately 2 minutes of the pacemaker disconnection, at around 2:30 in the morning, a residential security camera located approximately 2.5 miles from the Guthrie property captured footage of a vehicle moving at elevated speed down the street. This clip was made public by investigators on February 26th. The Pima County Sheriff's Department confirmed awareness of this footage and stated that investigators are actively reviewing it as part of a broader vehicle analysis effort. The convergence of these three data points, doorbell disconnection, pacemaker signal loss, and the vehicle's appearance approximately 2.5 miles from the residence, has formed the operational framework investigators are working from as they attempt to identify the persons responsible. In mid-February, the FBI released surveillance imagery from doorbell camera footage showing a masked individual at or near the front entrance of the Guthrie property. Law enforcement described this person as a male, approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, with an average build and visible facial hair, specifically what appeared to be a mustache or goatee visible beneath a face. Covering. The individual was carrying a black Ozark Trail 25-liter hiker backpack and appeared to be wearing what law enforcement described as a belly band holster for a handgun worn incorrectly over outer clothing. A former FBI supervisory special agent who reviewed the footage publicly noted a possible marking, potentially a tattoo, visible on the suspect's right wrist. Law enforcement has since stated that investigators are presenting images of both the backpack and the holster to firearm and outdoor retailers across the Tucson area in an effort to trace their purchase. The Pima County Sheriff's Department confirmed that the backpack is consistent with the Ozark Trail 25-liter hiker pack sold at Walmart, and has been working with the company to identify how many units were sold across Arizona within a defined time frame, and whether any of those sales can be associated with specific transactions. The holster, according to the sheriff, presents what were described as fairly unique characteristics that may assist in narrowing its origin. These parallel efforts, tracing physical items carried by the suspect, represent the kind of methodical, investigative groundwork that law enforcement undertakes when digital and forensic evidence has not yet produced an identifiable name. The forensic picture in this investigation has been shaped significantly by what was recovered from the scene itself and by the complications that followed. Investigators confirmed that DNA material recovered from inside the Guthrie residence does not belong to Nancy Guthrie and does not match any individual known to investigators as having had lawful contact with the property. The presence of unidentified DNA suggested from early in the investigation that an unknown party had been inside the home. Separately, a glove was recovered approximately 2 miles from the residence. Law enforcement stated that this glove appears visually consistent with the gloves worn by the suspect visible in the doorbell camera footage. DNA extracted from that glove belongs to an unknown male. When submitted to CODIS, the FBI's national criminal database, which contains approximately 22 million profiles, no match was returned. The Sheriff's Department publicly confirmed that the DNA samples recovered in this case are what forensic analysts describe as mixed, meaning that more than one person's genetic material is present within the same sample. The process of separating overlapping DNA profiles requires precise laboratory analysis, specialized statistical modeling, and in complex cases, extended timelines. Officials have stated that the resolution of some of those samples could take weeks, in other instances months, and in certain scenarios potentially longer. The DNA profile extracted from the glove and the profile recovered from inside the residence belong to 2 different individuals. That finding has shaped the operational direction of the case. It means investigators are not working with a single unknown genetic signature. They are working with 2. Investigators have initiated investigative genetic genealogy on both recovered DNA profiles. This methodology, the same analytical framework applied in the identification of the Golden State Killer following more than 4 decades, works by comparing unknown DNA profiles against publicly accessible genealogy databases to identify possible familial matches. Even when a suspect has never submitted their own DNA to a database, relatives may have done so through commercial genealogy services, making it possible to build partial family trees and narrow the field to specific individuals in specific geographic areas. The process is time-intensive, and it requires that the underlying DNA profiles be of sufficient quality to produce statistically meaningful comparisons. In cases where samples are degraded or heavily mixed, the genealogical process becomes considerably more difficult. Investigators have not publicly disclosed the current status of that analysis. On February 13th, a law enforcement operation drew significant national media attention. A widely reported SWAT-scale response occurred in connection with individuals located in the greater Tucson area. According to available reporting, the individuals detained during that operation were subsequently confirmed to have no connection to the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. No charges were filed. The operation did not produce a suspect in the case. On February 26th, a separate incident occurred when a man was arrested near the Guthrie residence on misdemeanor driving under the influence charges. The Pima County Sheriff's Department explicitly confirmed that this arrest is not related to the Guthrie investigation. Both of these episodes illustrate the complexity of managing a high-volume, high-pressure investigation in which law enforcement is simultaneously processing thousands of tips and pursuing leads that may not ultimately connect to the core case. The volume of information generated by this investigation has been substantial. According to FBI officials, approximately 23,000 tips have been submitted to the FBI tip line since the investigation opened. On February 26th, the Guthrie family publicly announced a reward of up to $1 million for information leading to Nancy Guthrie's recovery, with the reward payable in cash and tips eligible to be submitted anonymously. FBI officials stated that within the first 24 hours of that announcement, approximately 750 credible tips were generated by the reward video alone. An additional approximately 1,500 tips followed in subsequent days. The total reward has since grown to over $1.2 million. Law enforcement confirmed that tips are continuing to be evaluated and prioritized, though officials could not specify at this stage whether any new evidence has been identified as a direct result of the reward announcement. On February 26th, the Pima County Sheriff's Department also publicly confirmed that investigators are actively reviewing surveillance video of vehicles traveling in the Catalina foothills area, including areas well beyond the immediate vicinity of the Guthrie residence. The department asked homeowners in surrounding communities to submit any footage that might be relevant to the investigation. According to law enforcement analysts and former federal agents who commented publicly, the investigative approach at this stage involves identifying vehicles of interest from surveillance recordings, working from headlight and taillight geometry when license plates are not visible, and then cross-referencing vehicle type and timeframes against license plate reader data at highway entrances and major roadways. The FBI has confirmed it has amassed approximately 10,000 hours of surveillance video for review. That figure reflects the scale of the geographic sweep investigators have undertaken. On February 27th, the Pima County Sheriff's Department issued a formal statement describing a shift in how resources are being allocated to the case. Officials stated the department is refocusing resources to detectives specifically assigned to the investigation, noting that as leads are developed and resolved, resource allocation may fluctuate. The department confirmed that a patrol presence in the Guthrie neighborhood would be maintained. Law enforcement analysts who commented publicly on this development cautioned against reading the resource shift as a reduction in commitment. They explained that the transition reflects a move from the high-intensity rapid response phase of the investigation, characterized by urgent, time-sensitive field operations, toward a more methodical, evidence-driven phase focused on forensic analysis, surveillance review, and tip evaluation. Both phases are standard in complex missing person investigations of this scale. Around the same period, federal prosecutors, specifically assistant United States attorneys, were observed at the Guthrie property alongside FBI investigators. Analysts and former federal law enforcement officials who commented publicly on this development noted that federal prosecutors typically become involved in the physical evidence phase of an investigation when cases are progressing toward potential prosecution. The presence of those prosecutors at the scene before the property was formally returned to the family was described by one former FBI supervisory special agent as consistent with prosecutors familiarizing themselves with evidence before access to the site. Concludes, "It is important to note that no charges have been filed and no suspect has been publicly identified by law enforcement. The involvement of federal prosecutors is a procedural step consistent with case preparation, not a confirmation that prosecution is imminent." On February 28th, activity at the Guthrie residence indicated the formal conclusion of on-site crime scene processing. New signage was installed at the property, including no trespassing notices and signage associated with a home security company. These developments were consistent with the property being transitioned back to family control. The FBI's investigative command post, which had been located in Tucson since the beginning of the investigation, is in the process of being relocated to Phoenix. Savannah Guthrie, the victim's daughter and co-anchor of the NBC Today show, is reported by sources to intend to return to her professional duties at some point, though no timeline has been established. For nearly a month, she has remained focused on the search for her mother, cooperating consistently with law enforcement throughout. Several ransom-related communications surfaced in the weeks following Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Multiple email communications were sent to media outlets, including at least one involving a cryptocurrency payment demand. The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department have stated that they continue to investigate all communications received in connection with the case. As of the most recent official updates, no ransom communication has been publicly verified. As authentic by law enforcement, no payment has been confirmed. The existence of unverified communications purporting to come from individuals with knowledge of Nancy Guthrie's location is being examined. But officials have not confirmed any of these materials as credible or directly connected to the circumstances of the abduction. All family members of Nancy Guthrie, including their spouses, have been officially cleared as suspects by investigators. That determination has been confirmed through official law enforcement channels. The investigation remains focused on identifying unknown individuals whose presence at the scene is indicated by the forensic and surveillance evidence collected so far. Volunteer search groups have also mobilized in the Tucson area. At least One organized search and rescue organization submitted an operational plan to the Pima County Sheriff's Department, offering thermal-capable drones, specialized canine teams, and additional ground personnel. As of the latest available reporting, those resources were standing by pending official coordination. The Sheriff's Office issued guidance cautioning against independent searches that could potentially compromise evidence or conflict with official. Investigative activity. Mexican federal authorities were contacted early in this investigation by U.S. law enforcement agencies. The Embassy of Mexico publicly confirmed, and the Mexican Secretary of Security stated at a press conference that
there is no indication Nancy Guthrie is in Mexico. While the geographic proximity of her residence to the international border has been noted as a variable that investigators would logically account for, no confirmed evidence suggests cross-border movement has occurred. Officials have not identified the border as a confirmed direction of inquiry and only as a geographic factor that standard international coordination protocols require be addressed. The case as it stands on March 1, 2026, presents the following confirmed picture. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, was taken from her residence in Tucson against her will in the early morning hours of February 1st. The 41-minute window between 1:47 and 2:28 in the morning is treated by investigators as the operative time frame of the abduction. A masked, armed individual of described physical characteristics was present at or near the entrance of the property. At least 2 separate DNA profiles belonging to unknown individuals have been recovered. One from a glove found approximately 2 miles from the residence, one from inside the home itself. Both profiles return no match in the National Criminal Database and are currently being subjected to investigative genetic genealogy analysis. A vehicle was captured on camera approximately 2.5 miles from the residence at the moment the pacemaker signal ceased. Approximately 10,000 hours of surveillance footage are under active review. Over 23,000 tips have been submitted. A reward in excess of $1.2 million remains active. What is not yet known is equally significant. The identity of the masked
individual in the surveillance footage has not been confirmed by law enforcement. The make, model, and occupant of the vehicle captured near the 2:30 timestamp remain unidentified. The outcome of the genetic genealogy analysis is pending. The number of individuals involved beyond the one visible in surveillance footage has
not been confirmed, though the presence of 2 distinct DNA profiles constitutes a forensic data point investigators are actively working with.
The location of Nancy Guthrie remains unknown. No confirmed motive has been established. No suspect has been charged. The investigation has entered what law enforcement analysts have described publicly as its methodical phase. The early stage, characterized by rapid response field operations and high-intensity tip processing, has transitioned into a period defined by sustained forensic review, surveillance analysis, and the patient, evidence-driven work of identifying individuals through biological material and recorded imagery. Cases of this complexity do not resolve quickly or simply. The forensic tools now in use, including investigative genetic genealogy, automotive imaging analysis for vehicle identification, and large-scale surveillance review, are among the most sophisticated available to law enforcement. Their results, when they emerge, will shape every next step. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has stated clearly and repeatedly that this remains an active investigation that will continue until Nancy Guthrie is located or all leads have been exhausted. Federal partners remain engaged. Forensic laboratories continue their analysis. Tip line operations remain open. The property has been returned to the family. The command post has been relocated. The resource posture has shifted, but the case has not been closed and no investigative pathway has been formally exhausted. What happened in the Catalina foothills on the 1st of February 2026 remains an open question. Before law enforcement, before the forensic record, and before the courts should charges eventually follow. The answers that remain outstanding are the answers investigators are working toward every day this case continues. Anyone with information relevant to this investigation is urged to contact the FBI tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or to submit information electronically at tips.fbi.gov. Tips can be submitted anonymously. The family reward of over $1.2 million remains available for information. Leading to Nancy Guthrie's recovery. The Pima County Sheriff's Department can also be reached at 520-351-4900. The investigation is active. The case is open. Nancy Guthrie has not been found.